Hello, everyone. It's me again, Deandra Ross Batiste from the lovely island of Grenada. I'm part of the Grenada circuit. I don't think I gave you much details about myself, but I would just give you a little bit before we venture into part two of today's session, Building a Teaching Ministry. So, a little bit about myself. I've been a Methodist for all my life. Currently involved in the Sunday school, the youth work. I'm also a local preacher, so I am greatly involved. And I was once a participant of DYLTS. I believe it might have been 2005 DYLTS session held in the South Trinidad district. So I mentioned this because being a part of DYLTS has played a pivotal role in my life, in leadership, and in being at this stage that I never thought I would be at to be presenting to you. I am not one who solely believes in just giving without also what I mean by giving, I mean in order just giving knowledge, but I also believe in receiving knowledge. So again, today I hope to learn from you all and we grow together in this session. So, part two of building a teaching ministry, assigning task. We're basically going to jump a bit. Yesterday, we looked at part one of onboarding and getting students into your ministry. Today, we are saying we have gone through some lessons. We have taught. We got our students. We gave them some lessons, and we're looking at the part of assigning task. Or we are about to give them some lessons, I should say, and we need to assign some tasks as we go along each lesson. I want you to think of an assignment that you really enjoyed. Just for a moment, think about an assignment that you really enjoyed, or maybe it might be more than one assignment. And I'm going to invite anyone at this point to share. If you want to use a mic or if you want to use a chat, you can share with us some of the assignments that you enjoyed, whether it doesn't matter what subject area, it doesn't matter if it's a ministry in the church, something that you think that was really thought-provoking and you were basically comfortable doing and completing, and you would love to engage in an assignment like that again. All right, so I see John said PESBA for CSEC. You know, funny, John, I never did PE for CXC, and while teaching, I learned a lot about that PESBA. It's quite interesting. You know, you get to operate as a coach in some respect in your SBA, or you participate in the sport for your SBA. Correct me if I'm wrong, John, but yes, I think that definitely is an assignment to enjoy if you're into sports and love the outdoors. Oh, wow. Nice, John. We got to host, he said, we got to host an aerobics burnout and a 3-a-side football tournament. So that's something to really enjoy. Great. So for John, I could anticipate that he would love anything to do with outdoor and sports in an assignment. And that's part of what we're going to look at today, not just looking at an assignment as pen and paper, but various ways in which you can create an assignment to more or less meet the different learning needs of the students in your ministry. So Ramon said biblical charades. Again, lovely. Charades is another way of it's not about just retaining knowledge, but you enjoy the session. It's memorable, okay? And you can recall a lot of things as well. Great. Anybody else before we go on? If not, I'll continue. Right. So the first thing I'm going to direct you to in assigning tasks is to know the level of each learner. Everybody learns at a different pace. And you cannot make it mandatory for everybody to be at the same level. That's not possible. It's impractical. But what you can do as a tutor or as a teacher is that you can assess your learners, whether you want to do an observation, whether you have done an evaluation. You might do maybe a little quiz at the beginning of your ministry, and you see how much your learners know and what they might, at what level or point they're at based on what your ministry is about. So if you're doing a music ministry, in particular in guitar lessons, and you're looking at, you want to figure out who are the basic, who are the intermediate, who are the advanced um, learners in the ministry, then that you can perhaps tell by, you may have to go through a process of having them to play a particular song for you, identify some of the notes or the chords on the guitar, etc. So if you identify the level of each learner, then you can tailor the assignment to their skill levels, because not everybody will be able to do an assignment that you consider to be easy and everybody can jump on board and complete as you would like them to. I'm not saying that you have to go about now creating all sorts of different assignments, but you can use one assignment and you can tailor it to make sure that there's each level of learners that you have in your group are able to fit in and navigate and able to understand as best as possible. Now, the second point is, how should these students complete the assignment? Do you want them, as the pictures I have up say, in a group to complete the assignment, a group assignment, or do you want them to complete the assignment as an individual assignment? And that's very important. Not all the time you would want your learners to be in a group, because sometimes in group work, and most of us can testify to that, you may have persons hiding, right? They're shadowing others who are able to complete the task, and they are not learning and growing in the process in completing the assignment. And sometimes you can find persons being lost in a group because others may not, that they may not, that person may not want to get the assignment done to assist, but you have persons who are stronger in the group and they may not be as strong as that person or assertive as the others, and so they get left behind, and so the task is completed by a few and not all. Or you might consider doing individual assignments. Don't do it all the time individual, because then you're not allowing others to embrace teamwork, cooperation, right? Patience, having to work along with others. Okay, all of these things come into play. And we know that God taught us, and He's teaching us as well, even at this day, that no man is an island. We have to work among others, right? We'll meet people, we'll engage with people, all in all aspects of our life. You could say you didn't go to school, but you jump a bus, you're going to meet people. You could say you've never worked in your life, you've been home, but you interact with people among your family, your communities, etc. So you have to strike a balance. You don't want to give too much of group work, or you don't want to give too much of an individual assignment. But you have to know that whatever assignment that you're creating, how do I want it? How do I want my learners, my students to complete it? Moving on to the third point. Assignments are aligned to objectives. So we know the level of our learners. We know that we may want them to do a group assignment. Now we have to see, okay, is the assignment I'm going to create aligned to the objectives? And the objectives I'm speaking about here is actually of the lesson or the topic that you're covering. So I have an example of a simple objective on screen. Describe the events leading up to the flood. That's the objective. Describe the events leading up to the flood. The flood I'm referring to here is the flood that took place during Noah's time. And the assignment is, in groups of 2, create a digital cartoon depicting one of the events leading up to the flood. So you see how I'm making the assignment aligned to the objective. If we go through the lesson and we go through content in the Bible, and we identify the events, God's people had sinned, and God was ready to start afresh with his people, and the instructions he gave Noah and building the ark. And these are some of the events leading up to the flood. Now I'm asking, at the end of the lesson to more or less concrete one of the events, to create a digital cartoon. And notice what I've done. I have not asked you to do a pencil and paper cartoon, but I'm asking you to go digital. Okay? So we are advancing things now because we are bearing in mind um, technology is very useful, extremely useful as we've gone through this pandemic to meet our students and our people as much as possible, and to be as creative as possible as well without limits. You may have students who may not have access. That's another thing you have to consider. May not have access to technology. So you may want to play around and say it could either be digital or it could be a cartoon using pencil and paper, for example. So yeah, so you aligned your assignment to your objectives. So it makes sense. You don't want to have something far fetched and that your students is questioning, why did um, Deandra give us this assignment? What is this about? They can't make the connection and they're lost at from the time they start reading it. Good. Let's look at guidelines. When given assignment, you don't just want to, as I outlined the assignment, they depict. I asked the instructions of the is one line depict one of the events of the flood using a digital cartoon. You have to give like guidelines. So the title of the lesson will be important with the subtitle of the assignment when you're given guidelines. So if the title of the lesson is the flood, the subtitle of the assignment should be the events or the event leading up to the flood. And then you have a breakdown of the assignment into a series of tasks. How do you want persons to get the task done? Because you don't want to leave it where you just say, okay, well, I want you to depict it using a digital cartoon. Perhaps provide guidance in terms of what kind of platform, what kind of application, digital application can be used to create the cartoon. I know of one called Powtoons, and that's very useful. It's free for 1 or 2 uses, and you can make use of it as much as possible. Um, yes, so that would be very important for you to consider that you want to break it down as simple as possible as we're thinking about the levels of our learners to understand. Yes, we will have from time to time, students will have questions about the task, but at least you have some areas of which they can identify with to start perhaps the assignment. Okay. Now, you want to include particulars such as the length, the headings, the font, and due dates. Um, you want to do, you're asking them to do a cartoon. You might want to say, well, do a cartoon with 16 panels, or that's a lot, 8 panels, or 6 panels. Okay. Or you might want to say, make sure you have um, besides just the verbal aspect of the cartoon, you may want to have your caption on so that you give them an idea. The length of the cartoon, you might want to have it for 10 minutes, right? And so these are some of the particulars you might want to include in your guidelines. I also have provide an evaluation criteria and indicate their weighting. And in brackets, I have a rubric. Most of us will know it as a rubric. That's important. You want to show the different areas in which the cartoon, for example, I'm using that because that's the example I gave, will be broken down. So you want to talk about image. That could be part of the weighting. You give a grade for image, 10 marks. You give a grade for content, what's inside the cartoon, another 10 marks. You give a grade for the use of colors and those kind of things, and those things will be helpful for your rubric so that persons can understand, oh, this is how I'm going to be graded, and this is how I can maximize as much marks as possible to achieve. It's not just about marks. I'm sorry, I'm in teacher mood here. But it's not just about marks as we look at it from maybe school, general idea of school, but you might, in a ministry, if you're looking at trying to build people and to reward them, or even to make them move from one stage to the next, you want to assist them by helping them know, okay, these are the areas you want to pinpoint for you to master in your assignment to complete it. Okay. The next point I have upon assigning task is that you want to have creative assignments using technology. Creative assignments using technology. Now, I want to say this in general. I'm speaking a lot about technology. I'm speaking a lot about doing things different from the usual chalk and talk or the pen and paper. And this is what we have to embrace. We have come a long way in terms of developing from what was simple to going as out of the box, as creative as much as out of the box. And so we have to meet the needs of our people, whether from young to senior, we have to try and meet those needs. And so I'm focusing on the technology aspect because it is helpful, it is cost effective, and it is time effective as well. Okay, so I have at least three applications or programs that you can use for creating assignments: Google Classroom, Loom, and Zoom. And Zoom, we're familiar with, is the usual live video conference meeting engagement. You can have breakout sessions in Zoom for group work. You can have live feedback of persons. Perhaps you may want your students to give live presentations. They can upload their presentations like I've done right now. I'm showing you my PowerPoint and so on to be creative in assignments. They can even show you their work on paper, even across Zoom. So you see, you have creative ways of creating assignments. Now, I want to step away from the PowerPoint to go on to Google Classroom. For those of you who are not familiar with the Google Classroom, I'm going to stop sharing my PowerPoint and head back over to sharing my tab, just to give you a brief walkthrough of Google Classroom. So here I am in my email. And if I go to the top right-hand corner where it says Google Apps, I scroll down and I'm into my classroom. I'm right over the classroom. Now I already have many classrooms created because I had to teach during the COVID period, we had to teach online. And so I'm just going to pull up my Form 4 economics class. And just to give you a little scroll down, these are some of the materials I've posted over the period. And I just want to guide you into creating an assignment on Google Classroom. So you come across to the classwork. So this is after you've created your class. Very simple to create your class too. You go into your classwork and you click on Create. And Create gives you the option of either you create an assignment, a quiz assignment, a question, you could go material, or you reuse a post. I'm clicking on Assignment. I can give my assignment a title. And again, you see it says instructions, which is optional. The instructions are the guidelines I am hoping for that persons will use for their students to understand their assignment. Now, onto the right-hand side, you'll see who the assignment is for. I can drop this down and I can select how many classes I would like the assignment to get done, and all students, I can choose the students in the
Hey,
class.
Deandra, when he's seeing Gmail, you need to share the other page.
My apologies. Thanks for that, John. Let me just put it up quickly. All right. Right, are you seeing now? John, are you able to view? I'm assuming now while I ask you, it's everybody else is able to see that I'm on the Google Classroom.
Yep, we're seeing that now.
All right, great. So let me just do a recap of what I just mentioned. So I'm onto Classroom. I'm already in it. And I go to Create. And so I have the options of creating an assignment, a quiz assignment, question, material, etc. I click on Assignment, and here I am to create one. The title of the assignment, the instructions, the length of time, or your due dates, which is actually on the right-hand side. You can give a due date and time. Your points awarded. It's also on the right hand side. You could select the students you'd like to engage in the assignments, etc. And if you go down to attach, if you want persons to have a, let's say, a preview of how the assignment is to be done, or you may have a video you want to share to encourage students in attempting the assignment, you can choose things like YouTube. You can upload your own video or link, something that would be of a resourceful element to your assignment. That's an additional, that's a plus into aiding your students in understanding the assignment or to completing the assignment. You may even want them to watch a video and create a summary of the events that took place in the flood. So it's very creative in what you can do on Google Classroom. All right. Now I'm going to show you a little bit of Loom. Let me just stop share here. All right, go back to sharing again. Now Loom is another space for, as it says, show it, say it, send it. So you can record quick videos on your screen using your and your cam, and your videos. You may want to have your students do a video for you as an assignment, and they can perhaps even use the video to show you, well, this is my progress, this is what I've done so far, right? And you can give them feedback on what they've done using this platform as well. So you have options in how to bring across your assignment using technology. Now, if you're not so much into the technology, you're not tech savvy and so on, that is perfectly fine. um, a- Again, when I think about assignments without using technology, I'm thinking about how you can create, um, you can play games, you can do outdoor events, as to creating a perfect assignment when getting everybody involved, or to do individual work. Let me just get back to, I'm sharing my screen right now. Let me just get back to the slide I was at. Creative assignment using technology. Put that up. Great. Right? Any questions, any comments so far? All right. If not, I'll continue. So we're seeing, I assume, presentation still. So I'm moving on to the area of feedback. Feedback is critical in your teaching ministry. It is important once you have given the assignment, and feedback, note well, feedback isn't when the assignment has been completed alone. You can give feedback by engaging your students while they are working on the assignment. So this is where you can use platforms like perhaps WhatsApp. You can use your emails. You can use the same Zoom to just have a, let's say the due date is the 4th of August. And by the 1st of August, you gave the assignment today. And by the 1st of August, you might say, students, you send out a general note. I'm going to have a session on how the assignment is going. Join me, come on, persons discuss what they've done so far. So you're guiding them through the process of completing successfully. Your aim in your teaching ministry should never be for anybody to fail, right? It should not be intentional. You want persons to fail an assignment. You make the assignment so hard. I know we've gone through that in our schooling. For some of us, we've gone through ways in where teachers would say, "I'm making that assignment so difficult that you're going to find it hard to pass." Or this assignment is no, that's not your aim in teaching ministry. Teaching ministry is hand in hand approach. You're holding, guiding. Not that you do it for them, but you're there guiding the process. And so you want to give feedback throughout the assignment until the assignment is complete. You may not do it every day, you may not do it all the time, but at least at some point before the assignment is complete, you want to check up and make sure everybody's progressing well in it. Okay? Remember I said, like yesterday, teaching ministry is holistic, right? And so you have to try and complete with everybody together. Try and know where somebody might be weak, where somebody might be falling, where you might find this person is a bit dormant, they're not saying anything much. You have to reach out as much as possible to guide people along whatever way. You have to find out why the assignment was not done, or they haven't started, and those kind of things, because ministry is about supporting, right, others, so that kind of support is needed. So you just want to find how's things going with the assignment. No wait until it's completed and then you realize, oh, the person has not started, or they haven't done so, or I'm not done so, but they haven't done anything much, or they didn't do it as what was expected, because that will start to build frustration on both ends. The next point is provide a time period within which all assignments or tests will be graded and returned to the students. That's part of feedback. Tell them in advance. Tell them the time period in which all assignments and tests will be graded. Don't do it. Yes, there might times where you might want to give the assignment and then you say after, well, it's going to be due here, or you might do it on an assignment based on each assignment. Or you could do a general thing. Let persons know you have 4 assignments within this quarter. I'm saying using quarter because of the church year, from, let's say, from September to November. And if you have 4 assignments, these are the assignments in advance, what you could look forward to. So you prepare them mentally to take in, okay, this is some of the things that we're going to be looking at. And perhaps they can take the initiative to go forward and consider what the assignment is, maybe do some research on it, to be ahead. Okay. Um, so you let them know a time period, okay, in which it will be graded as well. Graded is important, as you want to let them know, okay, it's going to be graded within the next 2 days, and it will be returned to them to get some information. Always give. It is not enough to just give one-way feedback. And what I mean by that, don't just speak it to them. Don't just give them an open or general feedback to the class by person, right? Make sure you assess them, you go through in detail, you make notes for each person. And Google Classroom allows for that as well, that you can actually make notes. If you want to do it physical, you could do it physical as well. And this goes across the board, even in Sunday school. And these are some of the things we might take for granted. We don't give enough feedback so for persons to understand where they're at, what they might need to do, how they might be able to grow more in completing the assignment to the way it should be completed, among other things. Ensure to discuss the assignment by person or group, as I mentioned before, right? As we look at feedback, we're also talking about rewards. This is the last point I'm going to touch on. It's important to reward people. Human beings, we strive on rewards, whether it is at school, whether it is at a job, whether it's at church. We love to feel appreciated. And rewards are a great way for persons to be appreciated and to motivate them to continue to be a part of the ministry. Okay? And rewards also allow persons to gauge where they're at, and feel comfortable about where they're at too, and encourage to continue. So you have different ways to reward. Tangible goods. You may want to give stationary supplies for persons who have achieved in the assignments. You might want to do social media shout outs. That's fine. You praise persons, you give a list of rewards. Okay, these are the top performers for our Bible study ministry. And that's a great way of having to reward persons, and also let persons know that this ministry is progressing by building persons within a particular community or area, or wherever. Then you have digital stickers. That's another thing Google Classroom allows you to do, among others. You can create your own Google sticker on Microsoft Word, or you can download a few with once the copyright and so on is okay. You get that access to. You can actually get stickers and having to reward persons with simple stars and so on, so they feel that they're working towards a goal and seeing their progress. Yeah. So we have looked at the level of each learner. We have looked at being creative in our assignments. We have looked at giving effective feedback during while the assignment is person's in the process of completing the assignment, and even after the feedback, make sure it's kind of twofold. You have written and verbal feedback, one-on-one basis or even by group basis. We're looking at rewards. We're looking at using technology in order to advance our level of assignments. Games are a very good way too of creating assignments, as mentioned before. So at this point, this is where the presentation has come to an end, but I'm open for any questions, any comments, to learn from you too as well. Anybody has any questions, any comments for what I've presented so far? Sign in task? Okay, if not, then I have a question for anybody. How comfortable do you feel right now, since I have presented from part one and now part two, on building a teaching ministry? How comfortable are you now in going about building a teaching ministry? What things, what elements or takeaways do you have from the presentation so far that you think would be useful for any ministry that you may have in mind, or you believe you might see a need for the church? Oh, I see Clifona has a question. You're welcome, Kion. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Keyshawn said, I agree that rewards are essential. It helps build a spirit of confidence in young persons. Exactly. So, Clifona, you can go ahead and post your question, please. Clifona, you hear me? Are you able to post your question? John, if you're able, can you? Okay, okay, she's typing. Okay, thanks, Roman. So we're gonna wait a bit. I hope while we are going through these sessions that we're trying to find our niche or areas in which we can help build and support the our church, and by extension the community, with our ministry. That's what we're looking forward to. So okay, all right, so I understand. All right, so she says, with the teaching ministry and building the specific ministry, would you say that teaching persons about food handling and service of meal is relation to building the soup kitchen from the example we were doing? Would this be a good way of incorporating a lesson to the person who are volunteering and cooking? Definitely it is. Because in food, in dealing with, like you mentioned, a soup kitchen, I myself, I'm not knowledgeable about everything in having to build a soup kitchen. And so I would believe that I would need lessons on food, like you said, food handling and service, in terms of etiquette, in in terms of customer, I say customer service. What I really mean is, okay, how do we approach persons? How we engage with persons who would come forward to be to come and share a meal or have a meal in the soup kitchen. So definitely, I would say teaching persons about food handling and service of a meal is a way of building a soup kitchen, and it can be help. It will be helpful to use some of the information I shared here in having to get persons on board to volunteer and be a part of the soup kitchen. Like yesterday, I mentioned with the onboarding process to support your ministry, you will need volunteers and persons who can assist, and you'll have to, by extension, teach them. Um, in one of our congregations here in Grenada, very soon they're going to have their tea and fair, and I remember hearing one of the stewards say that they're going to have a session in teaching persons how to serve the tea. And so it would be very useful to, we might think it's a long process of planning, but it is very important to have a strategic plan in how we go about conducting events and teaching people to do things. Okay. It allows us to try and incorporate as much as possible so that the learners are knowledgeable or more knowledgeable in the area and better equipped to get the task done. Okay. So very, very good question, Cliffon. I hope I answered your question. Okay, so if there is nobody else with any questions or comments, let me thank you for being a part of this session with me, and thank you for your engagement, for your questions, for your comments. You're welcome, Clifona. Do have a blessed evening, and see you tomorrow, God's will, on the last session, part 3.